All right, so we should start. Do you want to start with revenue, or do you want to start with expenditures? Team? Jean?
I don't.
You don't care?
Yeah.
Let's start with expenditures
I'm just
first.
looking, what did he pass out here? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
those are,
That's-
as far as we can tell, the year-end, some of them aren't complete,
Okay, but they're pretty.
but they're
okay.
pretty
Thank-
close.
thank you,
And
thank you
probably
for
the
that.
sheriff can give us an idea.
No, that's
of-
okay,
Yeah.
that's all fine, thank you.
Yeah, the new equipment lines, if, like I said, dispatch showing 6,000, none of it used, but that's gonna be about $4,000,
All right. Okay.
which the bills are
Once the
probably on
bills
the desk.
come in. Let's start with the sheriff's department first, and we can go down those lines. Anything, we can go down each line, or we can, if anything sticks out at you, you can just ask the question. I have a lot of red marks on my budget here. Administrative salaries. What I did is, all I had to work with was what, we got for our delegation meeting. So I'm looking at actual dollars from 13 to adopted budget. And so I have to assume that actual dollars, 104,903, and then it jumps to 154. Is that Richie? When it goes up?
No, but the 104 is just through September.
Oh, that's just through September.
Yeah, that's the problem, that sheet's just, that's no sense even looking at that.
Yeah, I
Look at
guess
this,
not.
yep.
It doesn't mean anything.
She's-
Right. Well, even if you go back to the end of the year on 12, Richie didn't come on board until after elections, right? But is that is that what I'm looking at when,
There's 3 administrators, or in the administration salary.
right.
This is secretary, the administrative secretary, Teresa Shackford, she's the sheriff's secretary.
Well, what's secretary down in
That's a
06?
separate civil division secretary. There's 2 secretaries in the office. One is, quote, the sheriff's secretary.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at the year-to-date, it's 133,891.
Right, and that's
Right.
not complete. She said wages are not complete yet.
Oh,
Hmm.
But that will fall in line, there will be,
Right.
I'm guessing, some left over, because maybe some overtime wasn't used or something like that.
So these are secretaries.
But that includes Chief Deputy Young, Teresa Shackford, and Mike Santuccio, Lieutenant.
Oh, okay.
those are the 3 people?
Yes, and the administrative salary.
Who? Young?
Young, Santuccio,
How come they don't go in deputies? I mean, they're both,
because they're administration, they don't fall under the contract.
they aren't under.
Right.
Okay, so they don't negotiate. They're not part of the union?
Right.
Is that correct? Right.
And then Shackford is the administrative secretary.
Okay. And the grant salary, that's for, I'm trying to remember,
That was for the
is that patrolling?
State Drug Task Force, which we are no longer in that program.
Oh, you're not?
No, that deputy had left.
Okay, so there's still $10,000 in that?
Well, I think that was budgeted under Sheriff Conley originally, and it
Okay.
might have got overlooked when, because we separated from that program last November.
Okay, so that's
So-
still in there though, right?
So that won't, that'll zero out basically.
So $10,000 will go away? Oh, okay. Now, that Albany grant, that Albany pays us money, right? They give us, to patrol their town, $10,000?
20,000.
They give us 20,000, so that's all that is.
That doesn't show up on the income, on the revenue side.
Oh, I thought I saw
Yeah,
that.
special
Was
detail,
that-
oh, Albany contract
Yeah, I
is
thought I
separate,
saw it,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
And actually, the grant salary, looking at my notes, should have included the That's what that was. The New Hampshire Highway Safety Speed Grant,
On grant salary,
yes.
oh, and revenues, are you
And
talking about?
revenues. Not sure if it's,
There's a grant funds, line 19.
Yeah. Then the Albany contract is line 27. So is the grant fund, the 10,000, that's not highway safety, or that is highway safety, or is that the one that no longer will exist for drug enforcement on revenues?
because it does match the $10,000, so I'm saying it's the same. And all that was spent was 38.
Grant funds. Well,
Yeah, 3840.
right, that's, so you have there's a balance there, 6,000. But I might understand that the grant salary, when we get a new update, will be 0 on your expenditures and your,
Not on the
Revenue?
revenue.
Not
Because
on
we
the-
apply for that every year with the speed grant
okay, so is,
and the sobriety checkpoint is
right, right.
on that too.
Okay, but I guess I'm confused. The drug task force grant,
Yeah,
where is that? I thought that was under grant salary.
I did too until I saw the grant fund revenue line.
Okay.
Um,
Well, grant fund revenue is 2020.
I have a question. If you don't spend within that fiscal year your grant money, and you have an excess remaining, can you spend it in the next year? And where does that show up?
No, because those grants actually, they don't say, here's 10 grand, go spend it. Those grants are, you put in, this is the amount of shifts we want.
Mhm.
The speed grant is based on the highest overtime rate. So we allotted 10 grand for some reason, that's been the number. And then the sobriety checkpoint is only a one-time deal that we help out Wakefield with 2 officers. So that's barely $500 that night. And then the speed grant is, as you see, just under $4,000 for the summer, because there's only a small window where that's done for the state.
Oh, so, I mean, you
So we
just,
show 10 grand in revenue,
right,
thinking that that's the high end, I guess. but,
Right.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, we're far below that.
right. They're not actually giving you a check for $10,000.
Right.
They're saying, bill it, that you
Right.
send a
Okay.
bill in and then,
And that's just
you know.
your expected.
It's like a
Right.
reimbursement.
Right. Okay, so grant salary line is still,
So I guess we could.
oh, I'm just trying to think if, if we take the 10,000 out, your bottom line is gonna change.
It's a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
good thing,
Okay,
yeah.
I just want to reaffirm that.
I know.
So 4140,002 is gonna come out.
So you won't you'll have 0,000 in line 002. Is that correct? Or are you saying that even though the drug task force money has gone, you're still using this line for your speed grant and your alcohol sobriety? Is that what you
Well, I
do?
mean,
No, the grant will
at
be.
first I thought it matched up with that, but obviously there was none taken out, and that's year end.
Right,
So that 3,800 was taken out, I believe, on the special detail line,
okay.
and that would probably add up to why that's 147% over. But,
Yeah.
which is good, because that's income.
Right.
Oh, I see.
So even though I'm still confused, that's okay.
Okay, give me
I
a
get
piece
it.
of, do you have a piece of paper? Just a blank.
Yeah,
piece.
here, I got one right here.
There you go.
Yes.
All right, so grant salary will be 0. Right. So that's about- All right, so
I mean, grant salary, I am showing that we were scheduled to use that for the speed grants.
for the speed grants.
So, I mean, we could reduce it to $5,000. Otherwise, it's gonna get mixed in with special details,
Mhm.
Okay.
and it's actually grant monies.
All right, so special, we go to special details. Special details, you are, what you've budgeted for special details, it says $50,000. That's the revised 2014. I'm looking at, it says 20,000 for department heads, and then someone threw in $50,000. I don't know if that was the commissioners. It says revised 2014 at the end. Do you see that?
For special details?
Where do you
It
see
says,
that?
well, I'm looking at
Special
008, right? Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Jeez. That's why I should wear glasses.
Special deputies you're looking at, or we're still?
My God, I just put the sheriff into a,
Is there an official title for that speed program? I'm not really familiar.
New Hampshire Highway Safety Speed.
it's a federal grant. Okay. Special details.
It's a highway safety enforcement.
Right. I gotta take in the minutes, so I just write down speed on there.
So you want us to put on grant salary $5,000 so that you're,
More in line with what we have been spending for that. Two
so I need
grants.
to change that, so 5,000, so we just lost 5,000. But your special details,
Is commercial details.
right,
And as you see, we had a tremendous year
yeah.
working.
For revenue.
I don't agree that you need to put anything under there, under the grant salary. When he's getting it's gotta show up under revenue, and he gets the grant, but he's just, the guys that are working go out and do the speed patrol, or do whatever they're doing. They're not hiring anyone extra or putting them on any other time. I mean, it's just the regular.
Yeah,
I-
they're getting paid overtime while they do it through this program.
Don't we have to budget for it, though, even though it comes back as
Well, if they're paying
revenue?
them
Right.
overtime.
You do.
Yeah, it's budgeted as overtime because that's how they pay it, as overtime.
So they're not working on it on their own, they're not working
No,
on deputy
it's-
time, they're
no.
working on
Overtime.
their day off, per se.
Per se, or after shift, or before
Right.
shift.
Well, I mean, it's gotta show up someplace, and it makes sense to show up separately as the grant, so that you know where that money is.
So what are you putting there, $5,000?
Yeah.
On grant salary, yeah, 02. Oh, 02.
And again, if that goes over, that's all reimbursed, so.
So it's kind of a wash anyways. And on the revenue side, we're gonna show it as
Grant funds.
grant funds, 5,000, right? Okay, so. It's grant funds,
Okay,
God, it's like,
yeah.
because you've got so many, thank you. It does help. Thank you.
Might speed up the process.
It might just a little. Your grant that you're gonna receive for rehauling dispatch, hopefully, how long does that take to get approval?
We're hoping we should hear something by March. Whether or not that's gonna be any final approval, any type, we don't know. But we did hear word that we should have some knowledge around March.
Around March. But that's not a guarantee, just a acknowledgement or just a, some kind of, I mean, when would the funds be allocated?
That I don't know, that answer.
So if we
I kinda
budget,
got the feeling that we would have a knowledge of a affirmative or negative in
Mhm.
March,
in
April.
March, so how does that work budget-wise if we include that and then it doesn't happen?
Well, hopefully we'll know by March.
Yeah.
Because that figure, I know it's not on here, that
But
has
that-
changed. The final figure that went into them is about $900,000.
That's a lot of money.
You have 200 now? What, I mean,
No, we don't have any now.
but
This
you-
was
you
the
only-
original figures we were looking at to try and just get the consoles into dispatch. That's what those would cost, the 4 consoles. But then it grew into this 900,000 because the way the grant is written, we felt that we were better off to go in with Ospey Valley Mutual Aid and work it as police fire where we dispatch for both of them. And whatever use they needed to upgrade their towers and our upgrades for our microwave and towers also at the same time for a simulcast system was better structured. And this was after talking with Belknap County, Grafton County.
but, okay, I make an example. This sheet we have here that supposedly represents
Year end.
Revenue.
Year
Year
end,
end.
yeah,
only shows $6,100 for grant funds.
right.
Now, I realize 210 may be wrong, but it doesn't even show that, so that yeah.
No, this was last year's budget,
Right, what
the
they-
end of the year. This was that $10,000 grant
Oh,
funds.
so you're just showing, this
This is
doesn't
what
show
we've
what you
spent.
wanted.
That's a final.
Okay,
Yeah,
so 210, but now you're saying that figure should be adjusted to 990 or 9 something?
900,000.
but we don't have that
Just-
in this, I think you only put in 300, well,
Right, that was the
300,000.
original
Right,
figures we were looking
in
at.
this document that we received at the delegation meeting, right,
It's
so,
210.
yeah. Grant funds, well, it says 210,750. Well,
So you want that to be 900?
yeah, I've got a big question mark next to it, so line 9,
Well, that's what he's getting.
019, that's what he's hoping to get.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, 910 would be what I would look for, because 10,000 of that was separate for 3 radar units for cruisers, and
Okay, grant funds, I gotta find it on here.
and those are a half-match grant. The radar units.
So that's included in the 9, that's what
That would be
you,
910,
910, and the 10,000 is the radar?
for radars and equipment. And originally, we were looking at the Homeland Security Grant and New Hampshire Emergency Management Grants, but we've simplified that to only the Homeland Security Grant, and that's the $900,000. We could get, if we are awarded, there's no guarantee it's gonna be 900,000, they could say, we'll give you 300,000. and we'll work with
Is
that.
there any cost to the county for any of this?
No. No.
What kind of, because it's a federal government grant, are there any strings attached to it? Like you have to,
No.
you know?
No, they don't own it, they don't
Okay.
maintain it.
All
It's
towns in
all
the county
ours.
have to participate in the,
And there's no matching funds or no upfront costs at
Nope.
all, like, so they're just giving you the grant.
Nice to get free money.
There's no free money.
I
okay,
understand.
so grants, I'm sorry, so over
Sure.
on line 96, I don't know, I guess we have to put it in that side too, I guess.
I mean, you'd have to
Yeah.
put it in revenue, and you have to
Yeah, it
put
has
it
to go in
in
both.
both, yeah.
Well, if it's already in one line, you don't need to put it in another.
But we don't have it in one line
Oh,
right
You
yeah.
now.
need to have it
We're
in-
good. Okay.
showing in income and expenses,
Oh, I see.
two different places.
So grants over on line 97 should be 990 then, I guess.
Line 96?
No, 97.
Grants, I
97?
got 90, well,
Got a
it's,
discrepancy here.
well, we've got so many pieces of paper, it's hard to distinguish.
Yeah,
I guess
even
96, yeah.
96.
Okay, sorry.
96,
Yeah.
where it has $1,
Right.
because nothing has been, we're just keeping it open, I'm assuming with $1.
Yes.
So that you want to say
910, I guess.
910?
I guess.
No,
I don't
Yes.
want to, but I'm scared of it.
I mean, obviously, I understand that if we don't get it, that money really never evolves, so.
right.
And
So you
Commissioner
gotta,
Babson is reluctant to sign a piece of paper that, in case that happens, that it gets approved and
Mhm.
then the money never comes, that we don't have the right to spend it, and I realize that, so.
Right.
all right, so does that, I put it in expenditures, right? And then I need to come over to revenue
Mhm.
and put it in, is it 019? I mean, I'm looking at this
Yeah.
piece of paper that you gave
Yeah.
me,
Grant.
right? Right, 019. Okay.
I mean, I will stay in contact, because obviously it would help to have an answer before
Hmm.
your final votes,
Right.
obviously, because it'd be a
Yeah.
shame to have to raise this money and not,
Mhm.
in the end, need it.
Absolutely. Hmm.
I do understand that.
Put it there, all right.
Is there a breakdown of how it's all gonna be used?
In the, I don't, in the actual grant, we did have to supply all the equipment that was gonna be purchased and
Okay.
work done to the towers and all that, so,
And nothing scary out there
no,
that we're gonna have public feedback from,
no,
like a
no,
Bearcat or anything?
no,
like that?
no.
I have
No,
a
it's
question,
all
a general
communication.
question about budget when we have grants. So we have this $900,000 that goes into our budget, operating budget. When we do the tax rate, does that money come out before we set the tax rate, or do we have to raise that money before we get the money?
That, I would have to defer to you guys.
Well, you'd have to, I mean, if, we have to get an answer, I would think, before, I mean, how would we do that? If we don't have a confirmed answer, I mean, $900,000 is a lot.
Well, I was thinking, why do we even try to raise it from the
For
taxes
taxes.
if it's a
It's a
grant?
wash.
It's a grant,
Shouldn't that
but-
come out and not be part of it?
Well, you can't put it in the revenue side if you don't put it in expenditure.
That's right.
Don't put it in
Right.
either side. You can-
I know.
Well, that's
Get
what
away
I'm
with it.
saying,
Well,
yeah.
It
Well-
doesn't make any sense to tax people on something, so what, do we give the money back at the end,
Well,
or
you
how does
wouldn't-
that
You
work?
wouldn't use it.
It doesn't-
It doesn't happen.
it
doesn't
doesn't-
make- It's a wash.
So but we're still putting it in the tax rate, we're still taxing people.
You have
for it.
to, in order to show, you have to show all your expenditures.
You just
It's the
can't
same
leave it
thing
out,
with the town,
right.
But
we
then
do
what
this
do-
all the time.
But when
I guess-
I understand that, but when the money comes in, 'cause it's
Mhm.
almost $1 million, that
Mhm.
money comes in. But then what do we do? We've already taxed the people for that money.
No,
I
it'll go to
guess-
offset that tax.
Right.
And offsetting means that
they won't get charged for it in the end.
There'd be no
When the
effect,
bills.
there's no effect on the tax rate. It's
Right.
gonna show, the revenues will increase by that.
Right.
It will show an increase in the budget, which is unfortunate.
Right,
But it
but
also
not the
shows
tax.
an
Right,
increase in
that's
the other
correct.
tax thing, but it'll offset when it, because the revenue side shows that much.
Right, when you come back, when.
So
when-
it works out, it's
Yeah.
just,
It
and
works.
I don't, and I agree that this is the way you should do it. I don't agree that we should do it this way.
And for the
Well,
probably same
DRA
reasons that
really
I'm
makes the
thinking.
call on that.
Yeah, well,
I
I
guess.
mean, I know you
Without-
have to. It's-
but anyway.
Some
All right.
form of legislation to change it.
I just think people
Yeah.
need to understand that, because when you see that budget and it's
Oh,
huge, and
sure.
it's $1 million more, you
Right.
need to say that it just has to show up there, but it's a wash because it's the grant money.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important, because it looks like we're just adding all this extra money that we're not.
When the tax rate is set, that's all taken
It's
into
all
account.
taken.
All right, that's-
And if
That's
the
what
money's
I wanna
not
make
there,
sure.
he won't be able to spend it.
Now,
There you
just, so those of you, of us, or you, or whoever, what you need to pay attention to is next year,
Mhm.
when we do this. That,
It has to come
because
out.
that $900,000 will be included in the budget, so,
Exactly.
not, I don't know who will be the sheriff, but whatever it is, don't let them get away with saying, okay, my budget's only going up
Right.
3 or 4%, and have them include that $900,000
That's
in the bottom line.
We had
That's
the-
what you have to be careful.
We had that happen at the town.
Right, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
With a small.
But you'll
much
be here,
smaller.
Gene, so
No,
you'll.
I but just make sure it's.
Assuming any of
apples
us
to
are
apples,
here, that.
Right,
I
right.
guess food for thought, if there's absolutely no answer, whether yay or nay on this grant, come the 31st of March, or when you guys vote, what's the chances of postponing it until and have a special meeting?
I
If it
don't
gets
think you need
approved.
to. I'm not.
Okay.
And I'll have to check. We have, I think we actually have through April, don't we?
No,
March
we don't,
31st.
we don't sign off on this.
It's in April.
March
ain't it?
31st.
Oh, is it
March
March 31st for the
31st?
county one? Is it March 31st?
Because the union
Okay.
contracts are April 1st.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, we should have an answer by then, shouldn't we?
I would
We'll just
hope.
have to wait and see. Don't worry about what we can't worry about.
Right.
Yeah, I guess so. All right.
All right.
So that will be, someone will bring it up anyways and want to know why there's 900,000.
That's right.
But you talked about that at the delegation meeting, Sheriff, so I think everybody really is aware of it. All right, anything else that's kind of standing out at everybody?
I have a question,
Sure,
if I may.
sure.
Line 5, overtime. Last year you budgeted, or it was budgeted, I should say, $42,000 for overtime, which is getting pretty close to hiring a new person, isn't it? An additional. But as I see, you've only used 58% of that, so there's another 17,000. Do you think we could reduce that line down to something like 25,000?
No,
Or can we,
I did, it was 42, I'm looking to reduce it down to 40, actually. And I wanted to separate the part-time deputy salary with, actually, in the court deputy salary. Special deputies currently reads $35,000.
Mhm.
I'm recommending that we hold that line at $20,000. Which is line 8,
line 8?
I think.
Okay, it says 50,000. Revised 2014, is that,
35.
well, I'm looking at this one.
Look at the sheet.
This sheet,
Yeah, you need to put that down, that's just
All right.
causing you trouble.
it is causing me trouble. Gosh, I marked that one all up for me. Okay, so,
Special deputies, line 8
Line
is
8.
35.
I wanted to make that $20,000. Then I was requesting to add a line, because you'll see line 11, salary for bailiffs.
yeah,
I wanted to add a line, I had 11A, but whatever the county can do, for salary for court deputies. This includes 32 hours a week for the uniform court deputy that does the majority of the transports from the jail to the courts and to Concord. Currently, it's 2 part-time deputies working at Dino Scala and Ed Conley. They combine for the 32 hours a week. They're using the $30,000, $35,000, so I have no funds basically available for part-time deputies.
Your court deputies are using that.
Yes.
Okay, so if you add a line, what's that line gonna consist of for an amount?
$30,000. And basically that pays that 32 hours a week for between the 2 of those guys.
So you're 15,000 over what you've got now,
Over and
and then,
cut some overtime.
You
Because
get repaid for that?
we get paid for the transport deputies, yes. And when they're not transporting, if they're in the courtroom, we get paid for, reimbursed for custody and patrol, is what it is.
Can you tell me, where does that show up here, on the income, which?
Under the bailiffs,
So that's all covered under bailiffs?
yes.
The transport and the courts and
Yeah.
everything? Okay.
so back to line 5
Yeah.
on
I'm
the
sorry.
overtime. I mean, you're really close, even if you cut it to $40,000, you could have a couple of part-timers so that you're not using overtime.
Well, no,
Overtime, you're
I mean,
paying at 1.5 man hours per man, which really doesn't, it's not a conservative way of using your
No,
resources.
no, and I held off using a lot of the overtime, running short, sometimes. But our part-timers and most police part-timers are full-timers elsewhere,
Mhm.
so you never know who's gonna work the shift that you need to fill. Weekends are tough to get a part-timer. So sometimes you do have to use the overtime budget to do that.
It just seems really high to me.
Um,
I mean, that's really close to another whole person being employed.
I mean, we could cut the
regular.
overtime to $5,000 down to
37.
37.
When you said you wanted to add a line, you said, what, 11A? Is that how you kind of said it?
So I did it. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how the business office is
Right.
gonna,
And the 11A would say what? Court
Court
deputies? Okay,
salary.
because 11 is court bailiffs, so 2 different things. And 11A would be, how much money?
$30,000.
Okay, and 11 court bailiffs would be
The 116.
the 116.
So are you adding 30,000 or just separating it from something else?
Separating, I am adding a little between the cutting of the overtime and the part-time salary to include this line, so.
Alright.
You're adding 10 grand.
Yeah, because you've taken out,
So it is, but basically I had $0 for special deputies. And I believe we did go over on that line.
Right now, we've got it at 91%. 35, and you spent 32. Line 8, you're talking about?
Yeah.
we haven't gone over yet.
Right, but that hasn't, salaries are not 100%, is what
Right.
Kathy told me.
Fair
Yeah,
enough, yeah.
okay.
And that is where those monies that they're still working
Mhm.
for the year is gonna come out. So I know that will be over.
Yeah.
And this will enable me to obviously see what I'm actually using for part-time deputies in the end.
Are we in negotiations for salaries this year?
Yes,
Okay, so I'm assuming that already started.
it has started.
Yeah. When are you supposed to be, you hope to be bringing that to the commissioners? Or when do they expect to, so we have,
We've had 2 meetings. Last week's meeting got canceled. Basically, we've swapped ideas at this point, but nothing beyond that.
so this salary figure could definitely go up if,
It's gonna go up one way or the other, yes.
yeah.
The county has already proposed for non-union people 40 cents an hour.
They have.
That's
okay.
public.
Yeah.
And the unions know that they need to kind of fall in that guideline.
Right. Okay.
This is a small one, maybe we can get it over with quickly. Yeah, Line 17, education and conferences, you've got 6,000 budgeted, but you spent less than 2.
Yeah.
Is that,
I did hold back on sending a lot of conferences or education out of the area. The academy classes, most of the senior deputies, which is most all of them now, have gone throughout most of the academy classes.
Mhm.
So now we'll start to have to look elsewhere for continued education. So I'd like to try and hold that line, at least for this year, and see what happens.
The problem with over budgeting like that is that we end up overtaxing
Yep.
as a result. And I know it's not a lot of money, but these are the kind of things that we can, if we can tweak them a little bit then,
Yep.
and make them a little bit more accurate, then we tend to not.
I mean, do you find your conferences out of state so that you're using this money, or is this just to pay for the conference itself, and then something comes out of travel and, for a hotel or something like that? I mean,
Well, it would all come out of that.
Would all come out of
Because
that.
I think we did away with our
Yeah, sure.
travel. I mean, we could, $5,000 if that.
we
Every
will take what
little
we
bit
can get,
helps.
but it's, yeah, every little bit helps. So bring that down to 5,000.
And obviously, all your Medicare and Social Security figures are all
Oh,
go up.
yeah. How about your dues, license, and subscriptions? You've got
That should
like
be-
4,000 left.
We will be getting a couple more dues, per se, as far as maintenance on computer software equipment, because we are upgrading.
Mhm.
So I do see that increasing somewhat.
Okay. But do you think you'll have 2,000 left over, or do you think?
It's gonna be tough to
That's hard
say
to say.
in the end when all this communication stuff's done, whatnot.
Okay. Are you using the K-9?
Yes, yeah. She just did become sick, but hopefully she'll
How old is
get
she?
through that. 9, possibly 10 years.
The dog is 9 or 10 years old?
Yep.
Is it a drug dog, or?
No, well, it's a drug dog, right? It's not a bite dog, so
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
easier on the life that way.
Right.
But drug and search.
Is it a German
And it's a
Shepherd?
black lab.
It's a black lab.
Yep. When this one does retire, because of the program we use, Working Dog,
Working dogs, yeah.
Working Dog will supply a
Another one,
dog if we
if you choose to.
choose to.
At some point, you might want to run up some statistics on how often you use her. I mean, do you allow, if she's a drug dog, are you using her in schools, or are you using her just for searches in vehicles? I mean,
All of
not
the
that it's a
above.
lot of money, because it's, you know,
All of the above.
what it,
PR for search of vehicles, search of houses, search of schools,
right?
for all. She's assisted several counties.
Because there's several
multiple.
of those dogs in the county. Mm.
Wolfboro did just lose theirs. They don't have a dog anymore.
Oh, they lost theirs.
So there's one less.
One less, yeah.
Ospey and Freedom,
Moulton Borough.
which sometimes are tough to get.
Yeah, Moulton Borough still has their
Yeah,
dog,
Marlboro,
yeah.
Sorry.
State Police.
State police, you just never know what area he's in.
Okay.
How about uniform expense? It looks like you didn't spend much money out of that. And
I did hold back, that's a contract issue. So what's in that line is what's in the contract.
okay.
Is it used for new uniforms? Is it used for replacement?
For both,
For both?
yeah.
Same thing with computer expense. You've kind of covered that in a couple of different locations. If you're, the other discussion we had about, what was it? 17, education, and, no, that wasn't it. But you've only used $1,000 out of 5.
Well, that may be one of the figures that goes up for year-end stuff that she hasn't got to.
Okay.
Because I know,
You're-
we did get some computers.
Is that just hardware, or does that include software and
That includes hardware and software. Oh,
any year-long?
not subscriptions,
Okay.
yeah.
How about like computer repair, IT issues, things like that? Is that a
That's-
separate
there is a line
item?
separate.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, for the IT.
So really, this is kind of something that you should be able to anticipate whether you're gonna spend it or not,
Yes, other than.
unless something breaks down.
Right, which we did just have one of the dispatch computers crash.
But still, $5,000 is a lot of money.
Right,
Do you plan ahead of what you're gonna spend that money on? Or-
we try to, yep. That one. I know we just did purchase 3 new for revolving, because they're about 6 years old, 7 years old. That would be my anticipation, is end-of-life stuff.
Yeah.
I can take a closer look at that for the next meeting.
For the IT?
For the computer expense line 66.
The insurance that you're over like 20,000, is that what I'm reading? And 93? Is that, what insurance is that? We budgeted 50 and we've spent 70.
That just says insurance. right?
Yeah, what is that?
That is the county liability and auto insurances for the cruises and everything. Business office did say that that line was going up. I'm assuming it's countywide.
But it shouldn't have, I
But it
mean,
went up. I mean, it's already
right, it
been.
isn't so much that we're proposing more now, but it shouldn't have gone up that much. I mean, over what we budgeted, I wouldn't think.
Car insurance.
Unless-
Again, that's the figure, that 50,000 is supplied from the business office
Right.
on our portion.
I'm guessing,
I'm not sure why it went up, I'm assuming it was, wasn't because of vehicles.
Wasn't claims or things like,
No,
It's like, it's a 40% increase.
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I'm thinking it's either personnel or liability insurances.
yeah, but the question is,
Why?
you would have thought we had something fairly close to budget last year.
Hmm.
If every department has gone up, that's what, 50% roughly? 40%?
40%, yeah.
We're in a lot of trouble. My guess is there was an allocation made.
Yeah, 'cause-
Commissioner Babson just walked in, maybe he
Yeah.
could let us know. My guessing is they just raised the allocation
Would you like
on
to join us?
and not anyone else, because you either had money left or something, so
I'm just
they,
looking at the other lines in insurance to see if
I
they're,
don't know.
yeah. Commissioner, would you like to join us?
No, I have another meeting, to
Oh.
talk over at the jail. You talking about the liability insurance?
Well, it says
Yeah.
insurance, and we're under 20,000. I mean, we've spent over 20, you know, we budgeted 50 and we've spent 70 in his line.
For what?
For
Insurance,
insurance.
it says.
What?
Insurance. It just says insurance.
It's gotta be a mistake.
Well, I don't think so, but
It's line 93.
So 40% over,
I have it written down here, my question anyways. So.
Yeah.
I'm making a
Sounds
list
to
of
me like
questions.
it's a mistake. That's allocated, I believe.
Well, that's my thing, but I'm just wondering if you came up short somewhere else, and so you just made a higher allocation of the sheriff's department,
Stole my,
maybe. I don't know. But
We loaded on the farm.
I would suspect that's probably true, yes, that's right. Raise the income rate. But I got it written down here as a question, so.
Okay,
we'll get
I'm
it.
just gonna. Line 93. All right,
you anticipate any new expenditures on the radio communication line, 69? There's another one that's, you've only spent 6% of what we budgeted for last
well,
year.
again, I think that's one of those ones you'll find that the bills haven't gone through yet.
Oh, okay. So we'll look at that one again in the.
Yeah.
for our next meeting, before we have our delegation meeting, which is what, February, I forgot what it was, February 3rd? No, I don't have a calendar, but,
Sounds right.
does that sound right? Would we have year end by then?
But we have to, there's no sense of us having a delegation meeting if we don't have figures.
Right.
That's a waste of time, so if we don't, we should cancel the meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they do get the W-2s out before then, so I'm assuming that that's the final stuff, so.
Yeah,
Any new vehicles this year?
There'll be, 2 is what we're looking for.
$76,000.
And that's 2. So that actually has gone down from the lease payments, because we do own a couple more from the end of the year. But there'll be 2 vehicles. The only thing I would warn that will probably put 4 on the table for the following year.
4?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm not sure if we wanna
Trade the Humvee.
look at
and-
3 and 3, or,
Pay me now, pay me later.
but I can provide the next meeting, I'll provide mileage on the cruises and.
So we do a lease purchase, we don't purchase those vehicles?
We purchase, yeah.
Okay.
It's basically, I think,
Look-
one's initial payment, and then there's 3 payments after that, quarterly.
It looks like you have a couple new ones out there already that have
Yeah,
no seals on
We
them?
had 3 last year.
Yeah. And how many old ones are you saying 4? You want to replace 4 next
Well,
year?
No, we're looking at 2.
This
like
year.
2014.
But I'm saying
and then
next
it
year.
will probably be 4 the next year, the old convicts.
Do you sell those or trade them?
Yes, revenues, you'll see that believe $2,400 is the one we sold, we got this year. We gave one to the county jail to use.
Terrible on snow.
Not with 4 snow tires.
Yeah.
Actually, that's pretty good.
I picked one off of Chief Chigori when I was the code enforcement officer, and worked pretty well.
I gotta tell you, Dave's Crown Vic could never make it up the driveway.
Oh,
He parked it down below all the time.
And the
you're
new
gonna have those.
Taurus is all-wheel drive, so
Yeah,
makes a difference.
that's nice. Anything else that's sticking out to anybody? I guess my next question is, do we want another meeting, or are we going to wait to see if year-end figures come in before we meet as a subcommittee?
I hope, yeah, we need to have those.
Yeah.
I don't know timing, whether there'll be time, but we'll have to figure something out.
I can go down and speak to Kathy and find out when she thinks, I mean, your W-2s have to be out before the 31st of January, so.
Yeah, and they usually call it the 31st.
Of January?
30th, yeah.
Yeah. And if Karen has a meeting set for February 3rd, it's not a lot of time in between.
I know, if we don't have year-end figures, no sense having the February 3rd meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Or us meeting again, for that
Oh,
matter.
So true.
If we do,
Right.
there's nothing to update.
I mean, it might be that we meet February 3rd, and we have a delegation meeting a week after or something. I'm sure we're not the only ones that are feeling that way, right?
Right.
Does anyone else have any questions for the sheriff?
Not on this budget.
Want to go on to dispatch, sheriff, and do you have,
I think Gene's got some questions, though. He's got a list over there.
oh, okay.
On which budget, the dispatch?
Did you have questions that you want to ask him
No, I
on the
have them
sheriff?
written down for answers for our next meeting.
For our next meeting,
Oh,
okay.
If it's okay, I'll just.
Sure,
and then-
absolutely. And then we'll go on to dispatch if there's no other questions for the sheriff on his budget. Do you have dispatch in this one, Sheriff?
Yeah. Communications.
Yep. All right.
I would like to increase this part-time, basically, and cut the overtime a few $1,000s to make up for that. It does seem to be harder to get someone to work overtime than have a part-time fill it.
All right. So overtime is,
Do you have a figure you want to cut it to?
The overtime to 15 from 1870. And then raise the special dispatches from 25.9 to 32.
But overtime's in here at 15.
Right, that was my proposed,
So you wanna cut that?
no.
I have
It was originally 18.
1870.
Yeah,
And you want special dispatch to 20, you say 28?
To 32.
32.
Right, that's what it is.
same thing with education and conferences.
That's not a wash, I just wanna point out.
No.
No.
Well, I know.
Okay,
That's why I
just-
said 28. When that was the 3,000, I said,
There you go.
yeah. But he said, no, 32.
I think dispatch is gonna get busier than not busier.
Um, So the figures, so I understand, are the dispatchers in a union? Is that
Yes.
union? Okay.
Yeah, the same union.
So the figure that you have here, for the adopted $452,591, does not include any raise?
No,
Okay. So that's definitely, well, I shouldn't say definitely, but that probably will change, for sure.
Can't even find my stupid phone, I'm very sorry.
It's okay. If they don't, if the union negotiators do not come to agreement by the time this budget is finalized, how does that work? Do they go into arbitration, right? And then
yes, they have those choices to go to arbitration. Typically, they'll run on what the current contract is
Right,
until they
come to an agreement. And then how does that work? I forgot. I know we did that with the school board, but I can't remember what happens after arbitration if the budget's already set. Maybe next year, an
I
agreement.
don't know.
I forgot.
Can,
Hmm?
we have to approve it too, so.
Yeah, I know, but, right, but if we settle the budget at say the 452, because they haven't come to settlement, and then they go into arbitration and they still haven't come to settlement, we just keep that figure.
Yeah.
And if they finally decide, does it go on next year's? I can't
Well,
remember.
depends on when they do it. Does it-
I think you have
Whether it's
to-
retroactive or whether, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
all
don't,
kinds of.
all
special
sides of
meeting.
things. Okay, a special
I would think.
meeting.
I would think.
I just couldn't remember. We had that once on the school board.
There's, on the medical insurance under the dispatch, there seemed to be an inordinate
Yeah,
increase. Is
there's
that, did someone change?
changes on 2 plans.
Oh, 2 people?
Yeah,
Okay.
and one was actually added, went from 9 to 10 people. And there was a change
You
plan on
didn't-
another one.
You put 9, 10 people, you didn't add a person, you just added an insurance person.
Yes, they,
They took the
a current
insurance, someone
person
there
took
it,
insurance,
okay,
right, and then a single went to a double also.
Okay. All right. What's the new equipment proposal?
You're looking at 97?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That again is all based on the grant. So what you're looking at there is the 4 communication consoles and the new generator for Oak Hill Tower, which is pretty much on its last
Well, I'm looking
legs.
at $25,000.
Right, okay, so that would include the generator for Oak Hill, because that would not be included in that.
What line are we on?
97.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So the $25,000 is a generator?
And, I mean, that is all I have, because the other amount that I have,
Everything else is a grant.
was the grant stuff.
So the
Um,
25, the cost of the generator is
So
25,000.
you're showing 25,
Well, that's what,
no, it's not. If we go to $10,000,
that's what the generator
it's,
costs?
no, generator's gonna be less, but the hookup and everything, I wanted to make sure.
Well, no, but
I think the generator's
to-
probably 5 or 6.
To put in the generator costs $10,000. 10,000.
Hmm. Am I not seeing that?
And everything else you want is a grant.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not seeing that. You're
Yeah.
talking about new equipment, right?
Yeah, that's gonna have to be adjusted on the other on the
So I got
sheet that you gave us today.
6,000
Yeah,
it
it's only
says.
showing 6. But if you look at his worksheet,
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
225 and 325.
Right.
Yeah, that's all based on that.
That grant,
Grant.
that's what I figured. Yeah. That's all.
Which
Really, all you want
Will
is
be
10,
above that.
but
Yeah.
it only showed on the
is the generator.
expenditures guideline that you gave us only shows 6.
Right.
So that should say 10, is that correct?
Yes.
And then you
We're
said-
going in the wrong
So I
direction.
should say 10 on
Yeah.
there.
Instead of 6, it should say 10. Yeah, we are close.
Well, no, what he gave us is just what's, oh, you're looking over here,
Right,
that's revenue.
Yeah.
Expenditures, yeah, the expenditure guideline doesn't include this year's budget, that's just last year's figures. Yeah.
Right. What he's, it looks like he's asking for the same thing for this year. No. Okay, I got you.
anything else?
You'll see that the uniform expense is removed. That's based on a union contract issue, so.
Right. We talked about that last year.
Yes.
So, which isn't done yet, so that
Mhm.
hopefully will happen. But that, in that uniform expense on the dispatch line included, part of it was for uniforms and then part of it was for training, so. That's why I'd like to keep what we have for the education conferences on the dispatch side, because we're losing money for education on that
So-
uniform expense.
So uniform / education, is that really what you're
That's how it is in
saying?
the union contract, yes. It's
Okay,
It's all under uniform, which is kind of strange.
yeah,
But on here, you're putting it in education conferences. You're
Yeah,
gonna
I didn't
keep,
add anything.
you're gonna keep it at
Yeah,
4,000.
if we can hold it.
so,
And
you,
that would-
so let me
Yep.
just clarify. You have an education and conference line, and then you have a uniform expense / education line. Is one going to delete the other? I mean, or are you asking really for $8,000 or so for education?
No,
Just the 4.
just the
But you have it in two
education-
places.
Was getting rid of the uniform expenses line altogether.
Right, but he said he wanted to keep that line. Did you not say that?
Well, no, I wanted to keep
You
the
keep
education conference.
Oh, so, okay, I
I'm sorry.
misunderstood then. All right. So the uniform expense line is gonna be gone, you hope, and education. Okay, then I misunderstood what you were saying.
And the meals will be gone also.
Meals will be
Yeah,
gone
meals.
too.
We'll take that out of education and conferences.
Okay. Anything else? So 6,000 is 10,000, right? And then 27. Will we get a clean sheet at some point? I hope.
Depends on how well you behave, I guess.
Well, we'll get another one of these, because it doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all outdated at this point.
Right. Anybody else? I don't have any more questions. So Jean, all your questions that you have for Sheriff, are you gonna write those down? Are you writing down?
I don't know if anyone else has anything, but that's what
Yeah.
I mean, either the sheriff business office, answer most of those, I guess.
I would think, yeah. Well, I think you could answer how many deputies you have.
Well, hold on, yeah.
No. All right.
I mean, the insurance was the question I'll ask too, because I just saw that too.
Yeah, it went up
That's
Line 93.
40%.
Yeah.
some 40% in the dispatch as well,
Right.
which probably not a lot of.
I think that we should, the insurance line should be one line in the commissioner's budget. This idea of it doesn't, you know, if we receive any money from anyone, like by saying if we allocate $50,000 to Sheriff's Department, we're eligible for a grant or something, but we're not. It's just, it spreads it all around, so it's very hard to find the true figure for
Right.
what we're spending on insurance. Now, you can do it, but you gotta go to every single
Yeah,
department.
every department's gonna
Yeah.
tend to over budget for that every year.
Right, and then they can allocate it, like I say, if they were short, if the jail is short, having a budget problem, and they'd allocated 50,000 for insurance to the jail, and he's got a surplus, they can say, well, let's take $25,000 from the sheriff's department, allocate it to 75 for him, and cut the jail. So, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
Right,
I don't know if that's what they did, but I'm guessing since that 50 is just an allocated amount. Because obviously,
I don't propose that. I'm all
right, no, that's what I mean, it's just the general liability, and they're saying, okay, your share of the general liability is this much. Well, they don't know how much that is, you know,
Right.
so, but anyway, we'll find out. I trust, or we'll try.
We'll try. Okay. All right,
Okay.
Okay.
close this meeting. I don't know what time it is. Anybody have the time?
10:22.
10:22, close the meeting at 10:22.
thank you.
Thank you.